Disclaimer, your discretion is highly recommended before we proceed. What you're about to hear is strictly for informational and entertainment purposes. This is the word-for-word testimony from the federal courtroom during the trial of Sean Diddy Combs as covered by Inner City Press.
Inside a crowded Manhattan courthouse, the walls began to crumble, not because of a viral clip or a statement from another famous face, but due to a man the world barely noticed until now.
Gene Deal, once Diddy's personal bodyguard, he's been raising red flags for years. Nobody paid attention until the justice system finally did. Now, his once dismissed alarms are being backed up by shocking videos and powerful witness testimonies that line up with chilling accuracy.
On the 7th day of trial proceedings, sources within the courtroom reported that jurors turned pale when one of Deal's stories was backed up by recorded evidence. Diddy's hands shook.
He appeared shattered. What do you do when the man assigned to shield you becomes the one who pulls your empire down? This isn't just courtroom dialogue. This could be the exact moment when Diddy's legal defense began to crumble. Let's break down how Gene Deal's revelations flipped everything.
Gene Deal has been vocal for years, but hardly anyone gave him the benefit of the doubt. As a former head of security for Diddy, at the height of Bad Boy Records' dominance, he spent years at the center, watching both the image and the hidden truth unfold.
Across countless interviews and podcast appearances, Deal painted a darker portrait behind Diddy's polished exterior. Explosive rage, psychological games, constant surveillance, and disturbing parties involving celebrities and minors. Until recently, many labeled him a disgruntled ex-employee or a clout chaser. But now, during Diddy's federal sex trafficking trial, his claims are no longer whispers. They're being echoed inside a courtroom. Deal claimed that Diddy ruled more like a general than a CEO. Staff had assigned functions, secrets were tightly guarded, and real privacy was a myth. According to him, Diddy maintained control over everyone, from assistants to music artists, using fear, dependence, and substances. Years ago, Deal said he saw physical confrontations between Diddy and Kim Porter, the late mother of Diddy's children. There are things burned into my memory, he once shared. And I stayed silent far too long.
What's important now is how those old stories, especially about exclusive gatherings and reported abuse, are beginning to match current witness testimony. People are describing the same things. Phones taken away, secluded rooms, drunken attendees, and manipulation. When Officer Israel Flores testified that he saw Cassie with a bruised face trying to flee from Diddy back in 2016, exactly like Deal described years earlier, the courtroom dynamic shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't just one person's word. It was a disturbing pattern. Prosecutors are assembling a case not about a one-time mistake, but about a deliberate system designed for constant control. And Gene Deal was right there, watching it unfold. What's now frighteningly obvious is that his accounts weren't just possible. They may have been real all along. Most scandals in the celebrity world explode due to some shocking evidence. But this case?
It could unravel because of one man, unknown to most, with nothing to gain and no motive to deceive. Jean Deal wasn't some outside observer. He was Diddy's closest protector for years. And when he talks, it's not based on gossip. It's from direct experience. Legal experts now monitoring the trial say the jury might have no option but to consider his words credible. Not just because they're alarming, but because they've been shockingly consistent. In a new sit-down, Deal shared a statement that left many disturbed. You can shield a man's body for years, but you can't guard his soul. He confessed that his silence may have allowed Diddy's actions to go unchecked, making him feel indirectly responsible. When he brought up the notorious freak-offs, exclusive parties where Diddy allegedly coerced men and women into intimate acts while filming everything, he explained it was never just for satisfaction.
It was control. Deal claimed the cameras never stopped. If anyone ever crossed Diddy, he had the recordings to ruin them. These accusations now resonate with Cassie Ventura's claims, Lil Rod's federal case, and statements from other individuals, some involving NDAs, covert videos, and intimidation. That's what makes Deal's account harder to write off. Even more unsettling, Deal implied that Diddy's mother, Janice Combs, might have played a role in shaping his son's darker traits. According to Gene, the family environment didn't suppress control. it encouraged it. He mentioned incidents where Janice allegedly operated a modeling agency that secretly ran as a high-class brothel. These allegations haven't been confirmed in court, but prosecutors appear to be stitching together a broader theory. Diddy's actions weren't accidental. They were learned, sharpened, and executed.
During the most recent trial proceedings, one courtroom reporter said jurors noticeably reacted when a witness gave an account that mirrored Gene's past interviews. And when one of Deal's earlier denied stories showed up in official documents, Diddy allegedly mumbled something to himself and asked to step out, admitting he felt uneasy, the first sign of cracks in his typically unshaken presence. If Gene Deal takes the witness stand, and insiders say it's very likely, he won't just offer testimony. He'll confirm the universe Diddy built, with someone finally bold enough to pull back the curtain. As Diddy's defense team scrambles to shift the courtroom focus, one thing is becoming crystal clear. They weren't prepared for someone like Gene Deal. They anticipated outbursts. They were ready for jilted exes. They never foresaw a calm ex-bodyguard with a clear memory and zero fear.
Deal has said publicly that he warned Diddy years ago to clean up his act, especially after Cassie ended things and began hinting at legal action. He recalled watching Diddy ignore legal advice, toss out settlement offers, and stir up more drama with those around him. That exact behavior is now repeating. Prosecutors disclosed that Diddy turned down multiple plea deals earlier this year. Rather than strike an agreement that might have saved him from decades in prison, he allegedly chose to fight every charge. Why? According to Deal, Diddy truly thought he was above consequence. But now, in court, that illusion is cracking. On the 6th day of testimony, insiders said Diddy appeared pale, slimmer than usual, and noticeably unsettled. His hands were shaking during cross-questioning. At one point, he asked the judge for a break, saying, "Sorry, I'm feeling a little anxious."
This from a man who once called himself a beast, who rubbed shoulders with billionaires and presidents, now quietly asking for leniency as his world starts collapsing. Deal's insight is also helping prosecutors outline what they describe as organized, large-scale crimes. As he put it, this wasn't some guy spiraling out of control. This was someone carefully arranging things. Drug suppliers, party planners, confidentiality contracts, security, all looped in. And now, the legal system is finally treating these claims not as wild stories, but as the architecture of criminal activity. It doesn't stop there. Before we go deeper, if you're still watching, this story clearly matters to you. So don't forget to hit that like button if you believe the truth deserves to be heard. And subscribe, because what's unfolding in this courtroom is just the beginning. More names, more secrets, more cracks in the empire. We're following every moment, so you don't miss a thing.
Deal says he saw firsthand how Diddy used his power, not just to build an empire, but to silence it. Employees were intimidated, victims bought off, threats quietly erased. Sometimes it was bribes, other times it was fear, and that, prosecutors argue, is exactly the kind of systemic behavior needed to prove racketeering. A federal-level offense with consequences that go far beyond bad headlines. Now, as the courtroom battles unfold, D's legal team scrambles to discredit Deal. But there's a problem. Every day Deal doesn't take the stand, more evidence begins to match his words. Whether he testifies or not, Deal has already changed the course of this trial. Because his voice isn't just backing up the prosecution, it's reshaping the jury's entire understanding of the abuse. For years, disturbing stories about Diddy's outbursts and manipulation were dismissed as gossip, anonymous whispers, tabloid fuel.
But now, with Deal connecting the dots between personal accounts, hospital records, and sworn testimony, those whispers have become courtroom thunder. In interviews dating back nearly a decade, Deal described a violent fight between Diddy and Kim Porter, the mother of 3 of his children. He claimed she once had to physically defend herself by slashing Diddy's wrist with a broken object. At the time, people called it an exaggeration. But now, newly surfaced medical records confirm that Porter was seen at Cedars-Sinai Hospital shortly after a domestic incident. During the same time frame Deal mentioned, she never spoke publicly, but that ER visit gives Deal's story a frightening credibility. And then there's the infamous freak-offs, drug-fueled sex parties allegedly orchestrated inside Diddy's mansion. According to Deal, these weren't wild nights gone wrong. They were choreographed events. Phones were confiscated.
Lighting was adjusted. Guests were instructed where to go, what to wear, and sometimes what to do. That lines up almost word for word with testimonies from Cassie Ventura and other women who say they were manipulated into sexual situations they never fully agreed to. Diddy, Deal says, called them experiences. He didn't just host the events. He allegedly watched recordings of them later. For pleasure or for control? Cassie admits that in the early days, she helped organise some of those gatherings. She scheduled parties, arranged other women, even provided drugs. But she says she didn't understand what was happening because Diddy had complete psychological control. He made them feel like they owed him. And that's the most damning piece of Deal's testimony. This wasn't impulsive abuse. It was a calculated system designed to strip people of their agency and to make sure no one had the power to say no.
In court, that's more than immoral. It's criminal. Deal wasn't a bystander. He was the backstage muscle, the man behind the velvet ropes, the protector of Diddy's empire. But now, what he saw in those shadows is center stage. On podcasts and in interviews, Deal described Bad Boy not as a label, but as a lifestyle cult. A world where loyalty was currency, shame was leverage, and drugs, sex, and violence weren't vices. They were part of the job description. Deal claims the Bad Boy headquarters wasn't just an office, it was a command center. And if he takes the stand, the court may finally see that what many once called conspiracy was infrastructure. The surveillance wasn't just for fans or intruders, it was turned inward. According to Deal, cameras were everywhere, monitoring employees, partners, even romantic relationships. Everybody was watching everybody, Deal said in a 2022 interview. Nobody knew who the camera was really on.
That chilling statement has taken on new weight. Prosecutors have now submitted surveillance images and metadata from inside one of Diddy's New York properties. Photos that appear to show guests being escorted into private rooms. But the most disturbing part of Deal's testimony, what he called the grooming protocol. According to Deal, women, especially new hires or collaborators, were put through a kind of initiation. They'd be flown out, offered drugs, and then watched. Cameras would roll. The test? See how far they were willing to go. Those who resisted were cut off. Those who complied became regulars at the parties, and sometimes Diddy's romantic partners. Deal wasn't on the sidelines. He was up close. He says he saw how threats were handled. One woman, Deal claims, tried to expose a drug incident involving a young artist. A week later, she was on a flight to Paris, with an NDA in one hand and a cash envelope in the other.
It's a well-oiled machine, Deal said. It's not chaos. It's structure disguised as chaos. And to prosecutors, that's a critical distinction. Because if they can prove this wasn't impulsive behavior, but rather a calculated enterprise, the charges escalate from misconduct to racketeering. Deal might be the thread that ties it all together. He knows where the cameras were. He knows when the guards were told to look away. He knows how the empire protected itself by building walls of silence and paying people to stay behind them. For decades, Diddy crafted his image. Fur coats, champagne showers, private jets, and the all-white Hamptons parties. He wasn't just a mogul, he was the symbol of control. But in court, that image is cracking. No one has done more to highlight that unraveling than Deal. By day 6 of the trial, reporters noticed a change. The larger-than-life aura was gone. Diddy looked pale, gaunt, exhausted.
A journalist from The Breakfast Club whispered, "It's like he aged 5 years in 5 days." In earlier interviews, Deal claimed Diddy's biggest fear wasn't jail, it was irrelevance. He could survive prison, Deal said, but he couldn't survive not being seen. And now, here he is, center stage in a courtroom where every testimony, every photo, every name chips away at the myth he spent his life building. The prosecution's goal isn't just to prove guilt. It's to dismantle the image. One witness said Diddy didn't just host the parties, he orchestrated them, minute by minute. Everything from the playlist to the alleged drug dosages was curated to his command. Former staff say he demanded total control over everything. The defense, meanwhile, paints him as a misunderstood genius, a passionate artist, not a criminal. But the jury? They're starting to see through the smoke. And the man once known for controlling every room is now sitting in one he can't escape.
Surveillance systems weren't just mounted for protection. They were turned inward. Employees, collaborators, even romantic partners. Everyone was being watched. Everybody was watching everybody, said Gandil in a 2022 interview. Nobody knew who the camera was really on. Now, that unsettling detail carries weight. Prosecutors have introduced photos and metadata from surveillance cameras located inside one of Diddy's New York properties. Images that appear to show guests being escorted into private rooms. But it's Deal's deeper revelations that cut to the bone. He described a so-called grooming protocol, a disturbing process where new hires or collaborators, particularly women, were allegedly tested. They'd be flown in, given drugs, and observed to see how far they'd go, often with cameras rolling. Those who resisted were cut off. Those who complied, they became regulars at the infamous parties, sometimes even Diddy's romantic partners.
Gill also witnessed how potential threats were managed. He recalled one woman who tried to expose a drug incident involving a young artist. Just a week later, she was on a flight to Paris with an NDA and a cash envelope. It's a well-oiled machine, Deal said. It's not chaos. It's structure disguised as chaos. And that matters. Because prosecutors are no longer painting these alleged acts as random or impulsive, they're portraying them as the deliberate workings of a criminal enterprise. If Deal testifies, he could be the thread that ties decades of accusations together. He knows where the cameras were. He knows when security was told to look away. He knows the mechanics behind the empire of silence. For years, Diddy presented himself as the master of image. Fur coats, champagne showers, private jets, all-white Hamptons parties. He wasn't just a mogul. He was a brand. He was control.
But now, in the stark, clinical setting of a federal courtroom, that image is cracking. On day 6 of the trial, reporters noted the shift. Gone was the larger-than-life presence. In its place, a pale, gaunt figure, exhausted, defeated. It's like he aged 5 years in 5 days, one journalist from The Breakfast Club remarked. According to Deal, Diddy's greatest fear wasn't prison. It was irrelevance. He could handle prison, Deal once said, but he couldn't handle not being seen. Now, he's on center stage for all the wrong reasons. After a particularly damning audio clip was played, allegedly capturing Diddy ordering a woman into a private room, he flinched. When the judge asked if he needed a recess, he declined, but his face betrayed panic. Minutes later, he whispered to his team, "I'm shaking."
Body language experts say this visible unraveling could be swaying the jury more than any testimony. Diddy no longer looks like a mogul fighting for his name. He looks like a man watching his empire collapse in real time. Gandil's testimony, whether spoken in court or echoed through evidence, has reframed the myth. What once looked like swagger now looks like desperation. The prosecution isn't just presenting facts, they're dismantling a legend. One witness after another portrays Diddy as paranoid, controlling, erratic. Former staffers describe him demanding total control, from the playlist at a party to the exact dosage of substances guests allegedly received. He didn't just host the parties, one said. He orchestrated every minute of them. The defense, meanwhile, is struggling to keep up. Their original strategy, to paint accusers like Cassie Ventura as scorned exes or opportunists, is collapsing under the weight of corroboration from insiders like Deal.
What was once dismissed as a personal grudge now carries institutional weight. In one tense courtroom moment, the defense tried to discredit Cassie with 2009 text messages showing flirtation. "You were enjoying the freak-offs," a lawyer said. "You initiated some of them." Cassie didn't deny. "Yes, I participated," she said calmly, "because I believed I had to." Her honesty didn't hurt her. It made her more believable. And when the defense brought up Cassie's romantic ties to Michael B. Jordan and Kid Cudi, the prosecution objected, and the judge agreed. Irrelevant. It was a revealing moment. The defense wasn't presenting a case. They were grasping for tabloid distractions. Outside the courtroom, more cracks are showing. In 2023, attorney Benjamin Braffman reportedly advised Diddy to settle with Cassie for $10 million. Diddy refused. Then he paid $30 million. Legal analysts call that overpayment a panic move, a mogul trying to quiet a storm before it became a hurricane.
Soon after, Braffman resigned. Now, rumors swirl that Diddy's current legal team is fractured, debating whether to fight or negotiate. According to Gandil, Diddy has repeatedly ignored advice to cooperate. He thinks he's smarter than the feds, Deal said in a viral interview. He's not, and the courtroom is watching this unfold in real time. So is the jury. So is the world. A man who once built an empire on control is now trapped in a system he can't manipulate. Not with fur coats, not with NDAs, not with champagne. And for the first time in decades, he's no longer the one watching. Now, the whole world is watching him. And now, with Gandil pulling back the curtain on years of secrets, Diddy's carefully constructed image of a misunderstood genius is unraveling fast. What once looked like brilliance now reeks of delusion, behind closed doors. Another storm is brewing, one that could turn this trial into a full-blown celebrity reckoning.
Whispers have turned into names. Names of associates, of collaborators, of friends, all of them close enough to know the truth. Some of them, A-list celebrities. Others, former employees who watched it all unfold from the inside. And according to multiple courtroom sources, prosecutors are preparing to call them in. Gandil has given them a roadmap. He's named names. People he saw at those infamous freak-off parties. Artists he watched being groomed. Security who turned their heads. For years, his interviews were dismissed as wild conspiracy. But now, they read like a checklist for federal prosecutors. Sources say subpoenas are already being drafted. Former Bad Boy staff, dancers, even members of Danity Kane. Yes, Danity Kane. Don Wichard and Aubrey O'Day have both spoken out before. If either of them takes a stand, the jilted ex-defense collapses instantly. And then there's Diddy's own family, Christian Combs, involved in an alleged assault on a yacht in
Justin Combs, detained during the mansion raid in September. No charges yet, but imagine either one facing cross-examination under oath. Gandil claims their involvement goes deeper than we've ever known. He says the line between Diddy's business empire and personal life was never just blurred. It was erased. But perhaps the most shocking revelation yet? Diddy's mother, Janice Combs. Deal alleges she wasn't just an innocent bystander. According to him, she once ran a brothel under the guise of a modeling agency. If prosecutors find even a shred of truth in that claim, this trial could explode beyond one man. This wouldn't just be a case of abuse. It would become a generational crime syndicate. A full-blown RICO operation. The question now is chilling. If Deal's testimony is just the beginning, how many others will follow? And how far will this court go to expose the machine behind the mogul? Because this isn't just about Sean Diddy Combs anymore.
It's about a system built on fear, fueled by silence, and now that system is cracking. For decades, Diddy was the untouchable king of hip-hop. Bad Boy Records, Sean John, Ciroc Vodka, Revolt TV. He was the culture. But today, that empire is in free fall. 60 lawsuits since 2023. Dozens of witnesses. Silence, once bought or coerced, is now being shattered. And the world is watching as the empire burns in a federal courtroom. The silence has finally shattered. For years, Gandil was dismissed, labeled a bitter ex-bodyguard, a disgruntled insider. But now, his warnings have become the foundation of a chilling narrative. One that federal prosecutors say reveals a decades-long abuse of power. And Deal may only be the first domino. More witnesses are expected. More sealed documents are cracking open. The freak-off parties, the hush payments, the private surveillance networks. All of it now entered as evidence.
Still, Diddy's legal team clings to the same old defense, that he's being targeted for his fame. But that excuse, it's losing its grip. In the face of whistleblowers, surveillance footage showing abuse, and corroborating testimony from multiple alleged victims, fame no longer shields. It condemns, but what's really on trial here is more than just Diddy. It's the culture he built. A world where power didn't just write the script, it rewrote people, controlled lovers, silenced employees, bought silence like it was merchandise. But now, those people are speaking, and the jury is listening. The man who once orchestrated every scene, who choreographed the public and the private, is no longer calling the shots. Whether or not he's convicted on every count, one truth is already undeniable. Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, Love, whatever name he chose, he's lost the one thing he fought hardest to control. His image.
And no amount of rebranding can fix what's unraveling, minute by minute, witness by witness, in a courtroom where his secrets are being exposed by the very people who once swore to protect him. If you found this story eye-opening, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for the latest updates on this trial and other high-profile cases. What do you think? Will Diddy's empire survive this unraveling? Drop your thoughts below. And hit the bell so you won't miss what happens next. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned because this story is far from over.